Hi there, and thank you so much for joining me. My name is Keith Whittier, and today I'll be providing you with my mid-season report card for the Ottawa RedBlacks. You'd be very hard to find somebody happier than myself that there's a football team back in Ottawa. I can't begin to tell you the gratitude that I have for Jeff Hunt and his group for bringing football back to the nation's capital. If you spend about 5 minutes with me, you'll know that I'm extremely passionate about the CFL. I've traveled this beautiful country of ours several times over just to go and have the opportunity of seeing games in different cities. I've been everywhere from Vancouver to Regina to Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Toronto, Hamilton, Montreal, and I love it. I love interacting with fans. I love meeting new friends. I love trying out hot dogs in different stadiums. I'm extremely passionate about the CFL. Now, again, if you spent that 5 minutes with me, you'd also know that my favorite sports team, not CFL team, but sports team, is the British Columbia Lions. Now, a lot of people have asked, Ottawa has a team now, where do your loyalties lie? Well, the simple fact of the matter is I feel like I've got two children, my BC Lions and my Ottawa RedBlacks, and I'm very proud and I love both of them. But considering the fact that I've been cheering for the Lions since I was a little boy with a cute afro, if I had to pick one, it would be BC. But nonetheless, I'm a season ticket holder here for the RedBlacks. I'm a proud merchandise wearer of the RedBlacks. I love all things RedBlacks. I've had the opportunity of not only seeing the games here, but traveling to Montreal to see not only their preseason game, but their last regular season game. Now, the reason that I wanted to take an opportunity to provide my mid-season report card is because sitting in the stands, north side, on the 40-yard line, I've been hearing a bit of negative talk coming from some of the fans behind me, and I thought I would chime in. Now, there are three phases to any football team. There's the defense, the offense, and then there's the special teams. So let's start off with the special teams. With the special teams, I don't necessarily think they've done anything spectacularly great, but I don't think they've done anything spectacularly wrong either. I think our special teams is pretty much just there. We haven't necessarily let any big plays go, but we haven't necessarily had any big plays in terms of kick returns or kickoff returns or punt returns. I think our special teams, again, like I said, is pretty much just there. Now, in regards to our defense, if you look, you will see that we have allowed the most points of any team in the CFL. So you would think that statistically, the RedBlacks have the worst defense. But if you look at the rankings, they're actually the second worst. What I'll tell you is that the RedBlacks have run into a run of some bad luck on their road games. They got blown out in Calgary. They got pretty much blown out in Edmonton. And then they had a game here in Ottawa against Saskatchewan that they were never really in. We'll talk about the Western domination in just a moment. But one of the things that I would like to point out is their first game of the season. They had that game what looked like to be in control, but they ended up losing to Winnipeg. Another game that you'll notice is that they played Edmonton here, and they held that high-powered offense to 10 points. So I don't necessarily think their defense is absolutely atrocious. Their defense does tend to let one or two big plays go a game, but that's pretty much standard what you'll see in the CFL. The issue that they're having is the fact that they're letting in a lot of points. So I would say the defense is somewhat average. Which brings us to the offense. The offense hasn't been very good. Now, I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon and blame Henry Burris for this, because quite frankly, I've never believed in blaming one person for the faults or the failures of an entire team. And there's a lot of things that we can point out on the offense. The offensive line, I could say, doesn't give Burris enough time to throw. The receivers are dropping passes, and we've seen that several times before, particularly in the home game against Edmonton. There were at least 2 drop passes on the goal line, which would have completely changed the game overall. We've also seen the running game, and you look at Siobhan Walker, and over the last few games, he hasn't been getting the yardage we'd like to see. But it's interesting because if you look statistically, he's the 3rd rusher in the league. Over the last few games, though, not so much. And I'm not going to give Burris a clean slate because sometimes it seems he doesn't know if he wants to run or if he wants to pass. And he'll take a few steps up in the pocket, and next thing you know, he's being stripped. Or he'll have a bad read, and then he'll end up getting picked. Of course, there'll also be times where he's overthrowing his receivers, but at the same token, we're not expecting this guy to have 100% accuracy. I don't think we've seen a quarterback with phenomenal accuracy since the days of Dave Dickinson. Most quarterbacks are probably within that 60% threshold. Now, would it surprise you to know that Burris does not actually lead the league in interceptions? It surprised me, but it shouldn't, because the person with the most interceptions right now is Kevin Glenn. We'll talk about him in an upcoming blog as I preview the BC Ottawa game coming up this weekend. Now, overall, I would say, and I'd give the team a grade of a C-. And many people will think, okay, well, you're being really generous, or maybe you're being biased. They're definitely an F team, or maybe they're a D team. But I don't think so. What I've yet to see from Ottawa is them put together 60 full minutes in a game. There'll be glimmers of hope throughout the game, but I've yet to see them put through a game where they've put through 100% effort throughout. I don't want to use the expansion card too much here and say, oh, come on, they're an expansion team. But one of the things you have to understand is that a lot of the other teams that they're playing have been playing together for a long time. The other thing that you have to keep in mind, probably the saving grace for Ottawa, is the fact that they play in the Eastern Division. The average wins of the Eastern Division teams right now is 2. 2. The average wins for the Western Division team is just about 7. Which means if things continue like this for the second half of the season, a really good Western team is going to miss the playoffs due to the crossover rule. Now, is there hope for the Red Blacks? Absolutely. I definitely think that the Red Blacks have the opportunity to turn it around. But there's an interesting line from the movie The Dark Knight that I'd like to quote. The night is darkest just before the dawn. Now that's pretty much where the Red Blacks are right now, because they've got games coming up this weekend against BC, and the following week they're on a bye, and then after they come off their bye, they're going to Saskatchewan. Those are 2 extremely difficult games. I'd also like to point out that as far as the Eastern Division goes, out of the 4 teams in the East, only one of those teams has won on the road, Toronto. Now, can Ottawa go into Saskatchewan and get a win? Can they win at home against BC? Well, I suppose anything's possible, but time will tell. It doesn't help the fact that Ottawa isn't scoring. We saw them come out and score a defensive touchdown at the beginning of their home Calgary game, but then the offense went flat. And it wasn't until the fourth quarter that their offense scored a touchdown. I believe they went something like 3 games without scoring an offensive touchdown. You're not going to win football games that way. So should you panic? Should you start scalping your tickets? No, absolutely not. I still maintain that this is a team that is going to make us proud, and I'm extremely happy that it's back in the city. There are 3 things, in my opinion, that make a football franchise successful. Number 1 is the ownership. Again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. You couldn't have asked for better ownership for this team. The second thing is the team itself, the team on the field. We've got some growing pains to make, and I can't say that I was overly impressed when they let Paris Jackson go. Somebody, I believe, who led a lot of leadership in the locker room. But again, maybe there are things that were going on behind the scenes that I don't know. But what I will say is that when the going gets tough, your fan base shouldn't get going. So I'm gonna say that the team on the field, I think there's opportunities for growth and there's opportunities to click, and I'm hoping in time that's gonna happen. They better get their act together quickly because, like I said, they've got a couple of tough games coming up. So the 3 things, sorry, I digress. The 3 things: the ownership, the team itself, and then lastly the fan base. And the fan base is a bit concerning because, in the sense that, don't get me wrong, love seeing TD play sold out. But enough of the chirping. Let's get behind our team and support them and understand the fact that when the going gets tough, you shouldn't get going. So overall, I'm giving the Ottawa RedBlacks a C-. Maybe I'm being a little too generous in some people's opinion, but I don't think they're as terrible as some people might think. I think their schedule hasn't exactly been kind to them, but I definitely see there's an opportunity for turnaround in the second half of the season. Their last several games are going to be against Eastern Division teams, and looking at them playing Montreal, Hamilton, and Toronto, I definitely think that they can beat all of those teams. And again, if they're going to beat a team in the West, I would say definitely Edmonton and Winnipeg would be some of their best bets, and they have a game coming up against Winnipeg. So please don't throw in the towel on your Red Blacks. They're not done yet. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keith Whittier. You can catch my opinions on CFL_fan. You can also check out my website at wittywhittier.com. I will be coming back to you in a couple days and previewing the BC Ottawa game that is coming up this Friday night at TD Place. And if you're in the Ottawa area, I definitely hope you get out and check it out. Thanks so much for taking the time to check out my blog. And that's my view from the 40.